All right, we're working in the rain again. Hook this up. We got all our wires up here. Gonna make some connections over there. Cinch up these wires so they're neat and tidy. And then we'll have a stereo. I've used these before in boats. They work great. They're pretty much sealed. I got some decent quality wire on them, so yeah. We'll go ahead and use it on this one too. Take our marine speaker wire, and we're going to make a wire for each speaker, and we're going to put a little bit of extra in it, so when they get pulled out, they don't have wire pulled really tight. And we want to go from the speaker here across and connect. And like I said, these two loops I just added are going to be in case you pull the speaker out, you don't get stuck with a speaker that you can't pull out. Now all we got to do is strip these down and crimp the ends on one end. Okay, we got our heat shrink. Black is your negative, so use black heat shrink. There. Okay, so get that prepared. I'm going to use red connectors because they are about the tightest fit that I can get around this part right here, so we don't have a gap. And that's going to be your smallest crimp right there. Okay, so now we're just going to put our heat shrink all the way up onto this page, just like that. Bing, bada, boom. I like to use a little mini torch for this. You just got to make sure you don't get too close. And work your way down the heat shrink very lightly. Don't get too close. You don't want to burn your wires up. It's okay to turn them sooty, but you don't want to burn them. Okay. Start at the top. Both sides. And work it down. And work with heat shrink. You want to work from one end to the other so you don't get any wrinkles or places where moisture can hide up in there. Just wave it on there and so you can get a nice little connection. Double check up here. Alright. That's what it looks like after you've done that. That's why I don't use heat shrink crimps here, because I like to use actual heat shrink. These are marine crimps, so they're just not heat shrink. No big deal. And the top. Look for any lumps or bubbles. You see them? You just kind of wave it over them. Boom. And there you go. Okay. These cool down pretty quick. You can grab them pretty much right away. Don't work in the dark. Make sure that you always double check your polarity, because if you get these out of phase, they're not going to sound right. Okay, so the one on the left is positive. I'm assuming that that one's the same way. So we'll leave it right there for now. So just take our positive. You can see how nice and tight those fit. Now, sometimes you'll buy speakers that come with wires of their own. I never use those. They're usually crap. This is Scar brand, so they probably, being Scar, they probably would be good if they provided them, but they don't. Okay, so now we want to strain relief this. We don't want anything pulling on that or tugging on that. And we're going to put one little loop. Two little loops. Just like that. And make sure we still have enough. Going to zip tie that. So we're just going to put one little zip tie on this. And the reason I buy this really expensive marine wire is because you don't need to put wire loom on it. Okay, so now we have our little doodad there, and we're going to tuck this down in there. That's why I left that little gap there. I'm going to take my pliers and tuck that down, and that is our strain relief. And you can pull a little of that slack out. You can even give these wires a little bend. Just to be sure, I'm going to put another zip tie over here to the wire loom. Now this one I'm not going to pull tight. This is just strain relief. So this is one that if something gets pulled, it'll just tug on the main wiring harness instead of the terminals down there. Okay. Now we're going to go around to the other side and get that other speaker connected. Okay. Bring our speaker wire around over here. So now we have 2 speaker wires that are ready to connect. And this is a big amp, but I'm going to be bridging 2 channels left and 2 channels right into 2 channels total. So it's a 4-channel amp. I'm going to bridge it, and that way I'm going to get a lot of power, because these speakers can handle a ton of power. If I ever decide that I need more bass, I'll add a subwoofer, like a little 8 down in there somewhere, and I'll just change the wiring and go ahead and put that on like a dual voice coil. All right. So get that tucked down in there. Plenty of room, plenty of slack, nothing's tight, nothing's catching. Okay. Wire loom, to get smaller, you stretch it. That makes it thinner, and keep your cut part down so it doesn't show. So here's my power. I made this as short as I could because there's no need to make it real long. Power's right here. This is my trigger wire. I made that a little longer because I wasn't sure where I was going to have to put this. Woo! I'm just going to let my loom hang there. And we're going to go ahead and mount this little guy right here somewhere. Over here. Let's see. All right. Where should this go? I think right there would be great. Like right there. And then I can pull this loom over here, and then everything else can go into this loom. So I'm going to make that loom long enough to go to my Bluetooth right here. And I'm going to cut this a little bit long. And we'll save that for later. Okay. So now, looks like we might be getting some rain. I'm going to go ahead and tuck that under there. We're going to put this right here. So let me get a couple screws. I don't ever use this here because this amp gets hot. A lot of people stick these on the amp. You could, but that's not going to stay long because that amp's going to get hot and it'll just melt right through it. And then your Bluetooth falls off and it's dangling around while you're jumping waves. Here's our Bluetooth. Red is power, and the blue-white is remote out. All right, so blue white is remote out. So that's going to go to the remote on the amplifier. All right, let's connect our remote. Strip and fold your wire over. Okay. And we're going to take our hot and our ground, and those are going to go to the same places where our main power line goes. So twist them. These are thinner wires, so you fold them over, double them up. Okay. And we got our power here. How's that showing? Okay, that's good. Okay, let's strip down our power and our ground. Not much to get it down inside there. Maybe a ½ inch. 12, 13 millimeters, no biggie. Let's poke it in there and see how it does. Yeah, it might be a little long, so let's trim a bit off of that. We're going to keep them all 3/8 today, I guess. 10 millimeters. Open up our ground. Big enough. Oh, we're going to have to double these up. So you can see what I got going there. It became one wire. They're all intertwined if you do it that way. If you just stick them next to each other and twist them together, that's not as good. Nice and solid. And we're going to take the red wire. We're going to split the conductors into a Y. Y. Well, you'll see why. And we're going to take this. Okay, we're going to put it in between the Y. We are going to twist it around that side of the Y once, like so. And we're going to take this one. We're going to intertwine them. It's not the best lighting here, but I think you guys get the idea. And we're going to twist the shit out of them until it's hard as a rock. My fingers are tough. If you need to, just use a pair of flat needle nose. But I got pretty tough fingers. Now that is going to go into the power side. Make sure your screw's up high enough. Looks like it is. More. Get a pretty big wire on these guys. Okay. Make sure you don't have any little frays sticking out either, because that can be a problem if they touch the amplifier, which is ground. Everything is correctly installed here and double checked. Okay. Got a little bit of flexibility there with our Bluetooth. Now we're going to get some RCA cables, and we're going to jump from here over to that side. Okay, I'm going to be redundant. Always use quality marine parts. And these are Scar. I've never had one of these fail. I've used them for pretty much as long as I was able to get the Scar equipment. I've used them. I'm going to show you how to prevent them from getting messed up even more. Okay. So red on 2, white on 1, red on 2. or right on 4, white on 3. Okay. So now, it doesn't matter how I hook this up. I might go left to right, right to left. Might not be exactly where I want it, but that's okay. And we are going to say right. So let's see. We'll call 3 and 4 right. And we'll call 1 and 2 left. All right. So now we have that to deal with. Start with wire loom on here. Cut the fit. Right to about there. That should work. Let's see what you'll see the method to my madness here in a moment. Wire loom is so fun to work with. Get a zip tie on the end here so they don't start all jumping out of that wire loom, because that's exactly what they're going to try to do. Start working with this. Put it right up against it. You don't want it pulling them too tight. And we'll put one down about 1.5 inches away. Okay. And then I'm going to roll that up and over the top like that and put another one on. So I'm attached to that fully. Just like so. Roll that up onto there. Cover the metal. Cover the ground part of the RCA cables. Pull that tight. As you can see, that completely covers the RCAs. Can you see that? All right. Another piece over here. This is just cheap wire loom off Amazon. You don't need to buy that fancy stuff. And I make it a little long so it stays on there tightly. Get it all the way up to where I want it. Okay. I'm going to push that down there. Tuck that down in there. And I want to cover these. Oop, see how they pop out? That's what you got to watch out for. You want to get them side by side in there. And then you want this to bring it all together, just like that, and that's going to cover there. But first, now that we got everything cut to fit, you take these, take the electrical tape, pull them apart slightly, start on one side, push them together good, wrap it around, boom, seal that off. Same thing. Start on one side. You don't need a whole bunch of wraps here, just you want to seal it. The more wraps you have, the more places water can hide. Okay. Give it a little push. Okay, so I'm going to tuck this back in. And we're going to roll that up onto that. Now we're going to take this. And we're going to roll that up onto that. Okay. And that's what you're going to end up with right there. Now, I'm not going to put a zip tie on yet because I want this tape to really sit flat. So I'm going to start on over here and I'm going to just flip it over where I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to go along here and seal these RCAs off. Make sure they're in the wire loom. Make sure no colors are showing. Boom, just like that. And then we're going to take and leave ourselves a nice little loop here. Nothing too big, nothing too small. We're going to do this. Okay. This is gonna be right about there. So we're gonna put one on right about here. Not too tight. If you go too tight, you're gonna squish your loom down and it'll look like crap. And you're not gonna cut them off. I know it's tempting. You're just gonna lift the amp and you're gonna slide these underneath. Just like this. Okay, see that? And you're gonna just slide them up on there. You don't need to get the cinch part of the zip tie under there. Okay, so now we can't tighten that yet because we still have to do the other side. So let's go ahead and get on over there and do the other side. Okay, got our 2 zip ties. Let's see, to come out like that. So we're going to put a couple right here. See, those are there. So this one, we're going to want it to be right there. And I'm going to put 2 here, even though they're real close together, because it just holds it better. This is a boat. If it were a car, it wouldn't probably be as big of a deal. But this is a boat. So boats bounce down the road a little more. Okay. Now we're going to slide that under there. Make sure it doesn't come out on the side back in there because these are pretty long. Alright. We're going to just slide that down so we can pull this right to where we want it. Okay, and then you're going to just take a little bit of tape and you're just going to make these 2 really fat. Just like this. You're going to fold them over like this. And you're going to make them fat. Doesn't have to be pretty. No one's ever going to see this. Just make them fat. Just like that. Okay. Pull the screw out just a little more. Make sure you got plenty of room. And we're just going to do this. Slide this underneath that amp. Just like that. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, see that, guys? Alright. Gonna slide them together. Alright. Gonna make them fat. Same way we did the other one. Blob of tape on here. Keep that loop on the ends. That's where the fat is. It's like a good rack of ribs. You don't want to take the fat off. The fat's the good part. All right, and we're going to tuck that under. Boom. Okay. We're going to pull our slack out, just like we wanted. Get it to where we want it to look right. And down we go. That ain't coming out. Tighten that amp down. Both ends. And that is in there nice and solid. Okay? Now this is all in the interest of this being a boat. Bouncing around, going down the river. Okay? Tuck that down in there. Reach under here. Okay. Just like that. It's going to pull that under there and keep that out of the way. Boom, just like that. Tighten these. Now that's cinched down out of the way. We got plenty of loop here. We got a little bit of loop there. Alrighty. See, we got power down on the Bluetooth. As soon as we hit play, this bad boy's going to turn that amp on. in honor of Hurricane Francine. Always good to have a successful first connection. I'll show you what I mean. So everything's going, everything's turned on, all the power's on and everything, but that amp's off. Watch what happens. As soon as I hit play, boop, amp comes on. Can't tell on there, but you can see the camera shaking. It's got some balls. Well guys, I'm gonna clean up and make this boat look all normal again inside. Appreciate you coming along. Like, share, and subscribe. Go back over this whole series of the Jonboat build. There's a lot of tips and a lot of things you can do yourself.